Yes, another lovely weekend to work on the E46. But laid out in front of me here is a large array of parts that we're going to need to install to the car today. Some things bigger than others. A lot of this is just kind of tying stuff together, little bits that I've neglected over time. But to kick off today's video in the rain, we're going to be using this little piece here. Now, if you didn't watch the previous video, I briefly mentioned about our glove box. Now, let me quickly show you what I mean. This does not latch to anything. If you look under here, right there to be exact, there is nothing there, which is why I bought this. Now, in order to fit this, I actually have to undo all of my previous hard work, starting by unscrewing a few screws along the top, one on either side, and then our glove box is free to move. Then our new catch just slides on top. There's a couple of screws that hold that in place, and then we repeat all of the previous steps in reverse. Voila! That took way longer than I thought it would. Nobody wants to be under a dash. But moving forward, the next piece that we're going to install is hidden underneath this bubble wrap. Now, this isn't too exciting. It's just a little piece of trim that was missing from above our steering wheel column. It literally just pops into place. So 3, 2, 1, and there we have it. Just covers up this top sort of section here. Now that was quick and easy. So hopefully the next job is as well. So what are we doing next? Let me show you. You see our harness webbing at the back, the tail is still not dealt with. Now, I did try and do this in the last video. However, my cable ties were not long enough once I rolled it up to go around the roll. So I've gone ahead and ordered some more. Now, these are much bigger, so hopefully they do the job. Now, although the process itself seemed pretty simple, actually rolling this as tight as humanly possible was very challenging. But after a fair few attempts, I'd finally nailed the process, and this is the outcome. All I've got to do now is chop off these cable ties. Then that is a job well done, I think. So I'll be back in just a sec. And just like that, lads, she's had the snip. That looks so much tidier than what it was before. Pretty perfect, if you ask me. Another task done. I'm sorry, lads. I feel like today I'm just kind of doing loads of little bits and pieces, just like the last couple of videos that you've seen from me. However, I'm not made of money. I can't afford to do big breaks, engine and all that in one sort of video. For instance, on Monday I've got a bill that's £2,400. I only make that sort of money once a month, but I am trying to build a pretty extreme car, so hopefully you understand. But enough of me rambling, let's carry on with the interior work that we got to do. I've actually had this laying about for a while, I just haven't really had the chance to do it, so I think it would be a cool thing to do today. This is actually a kit supplied by SW Motorsport, same company that we got our seat brackets from. They also do roll cages, a bunch of stuff like that. Now, I did mention this fire extinguisher probably about 3 months ago on the old TikTok. Basically, I was asking all of you where I should mount it. Now, there were a few suggestions. One was on the rear seat delete, one was actually on the ceiling, and all the rest of you, the large majority, said underneath the seat, which does make a lot of sense because it's easy to access. Say you need it, you don't want to have to be crawling around trying to grab a fire extinguisher. You just kind of want it to be easy access. Now, I know people run full fire suppression systems on their cars. However, it's just a lot of money for something that I know it's important, safety is important, but for me, I just couldn't justify it. So I've gone the smaller route. I'm still trying to be a little bit safe. If I didn't have one, then I'd be a bit stupid. But let's head inside the car and see where we can put this. So I've just assessed the situation. So here's our bracket. And if we mount this on the floor here, it's just going to come into contact with our slider like so. Obviously, I'm not mounting it on the ceiling. I was thinking, worst case there's a fire. First thing I'm going to do is hop out the car. What can I then do? Boom. If there's a space here, which there is, in theory, I could mount this here and then it's super easy access, right? So I pulled the seat back to check and it does clear it, so there'll be no contact of the fire extinguisher, which is good. But yeah, I think let's get to pulling this out and let's get to work. So I've just pulled the panel out of the car and I've assessed the situation. Now the question is, do we mount it lower towards the floor, or do we mount it around the middle? Yeah, so I turned my brain on for a second and realised, right, if we mount it here, how the hell am I going to get the fire extinguisher actually out? So we're going to have to mount it somewhere in the middle. I'll line this up, make sure it's all perfectly straight, and then hopefully this will look sweet and we can get it back mounted into the car. So once I'd perfectly aligned our mount, I got this held in place with 4 little screws that I of course just screwed into the panel. And once that was done, we could then get to building the rest of our assembly, just a few bolts, and then finally this strap which locks the fire extinguisher in place. So here we have it, lads. Look, all mounted up, nice and sturdy for the most part. I think that looks pretty sick. Let's chuck it in the car and see how it turns out. Boys, that is perfect. Now, excuse the fact that this panel here is bulging out. It's not bolted to the other panels just yet, as there's a little bit of adjustments to be made. Put the seat back as far as possible and it stops. Literally, you got that much clearance, so it's actually perfect. Right, say there's a fire, boom, you're gonna jump out, spin around, undo this little latch here, you literally just pull it and then that drops straight off. That's sick. Right, it is currently getting dark and once again I've got another meal to attend, so I'm gonna wrap up for today, but I'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully the weather is all right. It says it's gonna rain just like today, so we'll see. But yeah, I will see you all tomorrow. Welcome back to another wet and miserable day in the UK. But today we got some pretty cool stuff to do. So first things first, we're going to tackle a few little pieces on our air cup system. Now one thing I have to do is attach some wiring back here. The wiring's already in place, I just have to pull it through, put a connector on, place it on there. But before we tackle that wiring back there, there's a switch, right, which we've got to be able to press whilst we're driving the car. Now that'll raise the air cup slightly so that we can clear speed bumps and stuff. But if you watched the previous video, you would have seen I put it right here in the ashtray. However, it's not currently held in place. So I'm going to make a little grommet and it will hold this in place so that it doesn't just fall about, so that we can actually press the button. So I've conjured up a little plan. Let me explain. So I found this little bit of plastic, right, which I've cut in half. This piece here I've wrapped in masking tape so that we can draw a template and we can cut it out. I'm going to put this over the hole. I'm going to draw a little template so it's half, chop that out, just flip this over, copy the template, put it on the other half, paint it black, stick it down in there, and then this should be held just above so that this can close, hopefully. So I'm gonna get to making a template. Hopefully this turns out all right. Okay, so my angle grinder battery has just died whilst I was making the template, so I've gone and put that on charge, but while still waiting to get a little bit of battery through it, my new sunglasses cubby, as I think it's called, has arrived. I'm a little bit disappointed. This is the one that we had scratched to high heaven. So I ordered a new one online. This one is also scratched to high heaven. However, it's a little bit better. It's basically the same. I don't know if they're all like this, whether it's a problem with the actual material over 20 odd years or so. It's a little bit better, so we'll whack this one in the car. So there you have it. I mean, I'll be real, slightly better than the old one. I just like the fact that it's in the car now. Makes this section look a little bit more complete. Yeah, not really much to say about it. In the car. Template number 1 is complete. Now obviously I don't have access to sort of 3D scanning tools or anything like that, and I don't have any hole saws, which probably would have been a good investment for this. So I've made sort of a semicircle. It fits in the gap, so I'm just going to put this on the other piece of plastic, trace it, repeat the shape, and see how we're looking. There you go, it sits perfectly in there, it just needs gluing down. Obviously it's not the neatest cut, but we're going to paint it black anyway so you won't be able to see it. But I'd say that's a pretty good bit of craftsmanship from myself. So I've just taken the button out to demonstrate. This nut is what we're going to use as a seal on top of the plastic to hold it in place. So we need to make a cutout in our template that's going to sit around these threads and hold it just so that it catches underneath this lip. Okay guys, so listen, this might be top 10 most scuffed things of all time, but it actually works. Look, it sits perfectly on it. You can't see the cut underneath, even though it's wonky as anything. So what I'm going to do now is paint these pieces black and then apply some glue. Then I'm going to apply a thin layer of glue around the bottom of this nut, pop that into the connector, place it down, and then it will be forever sealed in position so that we can then press the button and all is good. Now obviously if you're going to try this, maybe you want to be a bit more professional. I'm just showing what you can do at home. Very minimal tools, no measurements were taken, I'll be honest. This was all just trial and error and just basically giving it a go, which is what this channel is all about. I've never worked on a car before, but we're building one and it's coming out all right. So yeah, I'm going to get to painting these and I'll catch up with you in a minute.
But just before we could apply our paint, I first gave them a quick sand down just to give the paint a good surface to stick to. But then we gave this a quick clean and of course laid some paint.
Now I didn't film the next step as it was super fiddly and awkward, but great success. Look at that, mate. I mean, by no means is it absolutely perfect. I'm just currently letting the glue set, but that is job complete. I'm pretty gassed. Let's move to the rear where we can finish up the wiring and then I can actually show you the air cups in action. Okay, here is our air tank for the air cups. Mind the rusty nuts. I don't know why they're rusting. It's obviously just moisture. I'll have to switch them out for some fresh ones. But basically, we have an air line that goes down here. This little control panel here and some fuses and whatnot. But underneath here is where the magic is going to happen. So I've got to deal with this wire here, which I've already snipped. Pass it through our false floor and then mount it onto there. And hopefully I can make it look somewhat neat. Let's get to work.
So all I had to do here was extend our existing wire with a new piece of wire. Now to do this, I twisted the wires around each other, applied some of this paste which helps with soldering. Of course, then soldered the wires together, added some heat shrink just to protect our area, passed the wire through the board, crimped a connector onto the end, and that was us done.
Now once I do the fuel cell wiring, I will basically sort out all of this mess under here, get it all bolted to the chassis and everything in place nice and tidy, along with the wiring from that. Once that's done, we can actually get everything back here bolted down. Now that's completed, should we see if we can get it to work? Let's see the air cups in motion. Now boys, I know the battery is working because we have some lights come on in the car. That's sick. I've never actually seen them. I upgraded the yellow ones to white ones. They actually look pretty good. Let's see what happens. That is so funny, bro. Look, our wiper blades are moving. It's okay, there must be some sort of wiring that's not connected back here. Let me quickly put a nut on this and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so tighten that nut down and now we have some compressor noises going off back here. There's definitely an air leak from here. I can really feel it from there. I'm gonna let this compressor do its thing and then we'll go check out the actual air cups once it's got some air in the system. Good news, boys, you hear that? Neither do I. Compressor is done. Okay, does our button do anything? I am so annoyed. So the battery that I just put in the car has just died, and I'm not even joking. Can't leave this video without doing that. I'm gonna come back tomorrow with a fresh battery after work, whack it in the back of the car, and then we will see these air cups move. So I'll see you all tomorrow. Okay boys, we are back and I have figured out what our issue was. Now, it was in fact not the battery, it was instead a fuse. Now if you look here, you'll just about be able to see that the fuse in the middle has split. Now I'm going to assume that that is probably because we had an air leak there, so it was drawing excess pressure and therefore blew the fuse. And thankfully the E46 actually has a spare fuse located in the glove box, so I'm going to replace that, try and tighten this down for a second, try and get it running again, and then let's go for it. Okay boys, round 2. Let's see if this works. Compressor's going again. It is now time for the test. Do they work? Still nothing. So it turns out that we had a few issues, but they should all now be fixed. We kept blowing fuses, no matter how many times I changed it. And I think that's because of our air leak here. You can still kind of hear it. Second problem, I think because our air compressor was upside down. So basically I'm going to need to figure out a little mounting solution down there, but that's fine, we can do that. Now that that is all done, let's check if this works. Illuminates red. And then obviously when you're ready to drop the air cups again, and you hear that. The air compressor is currently still going because of our air leak and also because we just used it. Let me quickly wait for that to stop and then I'll show you up front. You ready? Pretty anticlimactic, I know. So that's that. That noise is agitating. But anyways, that's going to wrap up this weekend of work. So hopefully you've all enjoyed. If you have, make sure to hit that thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed so you do not miss the end result of this car, as it's going to be insane. I will see you all next week.